Thank you for watching this episode of VetBiz TV. I'm sitting here with Lee Cockerell. He's a U.S. Army veteran, a former Executive Vice President of Operations at Walt Disney World Resorts. He led a team of 40,000 cast members responsible for operations at 20 resort hotels, 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, and responsible for a plethora of other duties. He's the author of 4 books. He's a keynote speaker addressing military troops, Fortune 500s, nonprofits, educational institutions, and many other large organizations around the globe. And I appreciate you having us here today, Lee.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to be in your presence and learn more about you and what you have going on these days.
Thank you.
So
I keep busy.
That's awesome, as we were just discussing as well. And new book out, Career Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting for you.
Oh yeah, I wanted to write that one because it's kind of about my career, the ups and downs and the obstacles you're going to run into, and I wanted to tell young people, hey, you're going to have obstacles, just get ready, because a lot of people think life's just going to sail right by because they got a degree from a good school, and I said, you have no idea what's going to happen to you in your marriage and your real life and business, getting a bad boss, hating where you are.
Sure.
And you just got to pick yourself up, and that's why I wrote that one book. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, I've been reading this book, and you have a really amazing story of where you come from. Oklahoma, if I'm correct. And, talking about moving all over the country, moving your wife and your son to all these different places and stuff like that. Did you ever once think that you'd end up where you did?
I didn't even know I would end up with a job. I was a terrible student in high school. I think I happened to be in school in the days when they just passed you through. I think they wanted to hold me back in 3rd grade, but my parents wouldn't let them. So I still don't know where the commas go in a book and the punctuation, but I have people that do. And no, I never thought that. I grew up very poor and on a farm, and my mother was married 5 times, and I've been adopted twice. I got my name Cockerel by husband number 4 when I was 16.
Wow.
And went to college because he had money, and flunked out because I didn't go to class. I had a lot of fun. And then I went in the Army. And then I ended up at the Washington Hilton, started as a waiter, and then my career took off. And 35 years later, I was running Disney World.
That's
who knew?
Yeah, exactly right.
It must be magic. I don't know. My teachers would not believe it.
So what inspired you to, jump ship from college and jump into the military?
Well, in those days, that was 64. You either went in the military or you got drafted, or there was no. So I just went in, and it was great. I learned a lot about discipline. The Army's not into you being late to a formation.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about time management, do what you're told, have good standards for yourself, follow up. That was good. I think it was the right time for me because I was pretty immature. I was at 18, 19. I was just an immature kid. I didn't know from nothing. I'd never been out of Oklahoma until I was 20 years old, and so it was an eye opener. And I must say, it helped me with my whole life of being more, treating people better. I didn't know a black person until I went in the Army.
Wow.
I went to a segregated high school. Civil rights law, Johnson's program, it passed and became law in '64, about the time I went in the Army. So it was a whole different era, and so that was great too. And I think that's the biggest problem for a lot of people. They don't get enough exposure and experience, and therefore they end up being bigoted or racist, or because they just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know anybody that's not like them. And when you go in the Army, you meet a lot of people from different walks of life, backgrounds, and you learn a lot about following orders.
Yeah, exactly.
Discipline,
Yep.
And there's a system in the Army, and that's how it works, and that's how you do it. Same at Disney. There's a Disney way. That's the only way we do it. It's the Disney way, not your way. And so I learned a lot, and it was great. And then my career was great with Hilton. Worked for them for 8 years. Met my wife in the first hotel 53 years ago. Got transferred to Chicago, New York at the Waldorf Astoria, Los Angeles. Had a bad boss there, I quit. Took a job in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, doubled my salary and got fired after 90 days. And then we finally got a job again with Marriott, stayed with them 17 years. And then they passed me over for a promotion because I was too aggressive, I guess. And so I quit. If you don't love me, I don't love you anymore. And got recorded by Disney, and that's when my career really took off for the last 16 years. Went to France, opened France, Disneyland Paris, came back to Orlando, and I was in charge of operations out there for 10 years. So
wow.
And then I retired and started my own business. And Nikki and I, we go around the country and really around the world doing speeches, seminars, writing books, whatever we do. Somebody told me, don't watch television during the day after you retire, or you'll be dead in 6 months. So
sure.
Keep busy. And so that's kind of short my life. My son came to France while we were there. He married a French lady, which my wife predicted. She said, you fall in love where you live, and your son's living in Paris. 3 years later, we had a wedding. He's been with Disney 27 years. He's currently the vice president of Magic Kingdom. And he was vice president of Epcot and MGM Studio and All-Star Resort, and he's done a lot. And got 3 grandkids, 22, 19, and 17, who grew up a mile from me. They like me better than their parents because I buy them iPhones when they drop them.
Yeah, I know my kids love my parents more than they love me.
Pappy, I need a new iPhone. I dropped it. No problem. They taught me how to use Venmo so I could transfer cash right away.
Interesting.
So I get technical training from them when they need something. Technology. So yeah, that's kind of how it went, and it's been fun.
So the Cockerel legacy is living on within Disney.
Yeah, it is right now. At one point, we all worked for Disney. When we opened Disneyland Paris, they needed extra help. So Priscilla, my wife, for 3 days, she was working for Disney with the opening with a name tag. So and my daughter-in-law worked for Disney for years. And 2 of my grandkids have worked at Disney as a waiter and in horticulture. And so I think everybody's got a name tag by now. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was it like to, go out to France and spearhead that operation and get it going?
Oh man, it was rough. I mean, I was totally intimidated by the French anyway, because I don't speak French and they don't speak English at that time. You go back to Paris today, all the kids speak English. But it was hard because we had to do everything in 5 languages for Europe, and we had to do the menus in 5 languages. I had to hire people that spoke French. I had to hire 200 managers from all over the world. And while they came there were a lot of family issues because the wife didn't speak French and didn't like it. And their children would learn to speak French in 90 days. Kids, they're amazing. And it was hard. It was a hard job. And then we opened, and we were losing $1 million a day after we opened, which was pretty stressful. And Michael Eisner came to see us. But I learned a lot. I learned how people say they work 18 hours a day. Let me tell you, most people don't. I can tell you what it's like. I used to go to work at 4:30, have lunch at 8.
Wow.
I mean, 18 hours. I'd get back home at 10 o'clock at night, go back to sleep for 6 hours, go back to work. I mean, it was rough. But I learned a lot about myself.
Sure.
Composure, staying cool under fire, pressure was unbelievable. But I look back on it, it was fabulous living in a foreign country because I was illiterate. I couldn't do much. I remember one day I was sitting on a bench near the park reading the newspaper, and a couple stopped and asked me the directions to a zoo, and I was actually able to tell them in French. I was like, wow, I've arrived. It was pretty easy directions, but yeah, it was a big eye-opener about living in another place. Sometimes we don't give people a break that move here and what they go through, and I was being taken care of by Disney. They were paying for my apartment and everything,
Sure.
But it was unfamiliar, and like everything, we got used to it, and
Yeah.
it was fun.
That was 7 days a week?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
About a year before the opening, we just worked because the deadlines were like brutal.
Wow.
It was coming, it's coming.
Yeah.
April 12th, 1992 is coming, and so it was tough. But we made it through, and Disney's doing better over there now, and Disney corporate just said they're going to spend $1.5 billion to fix it up, renovate it, and make it look great again. And so time takes care of a lot of things.
Definitely. It teaches you a lot of life lessons, like you were saying. So, I mean, you can only, and that's what I really respect about you and reading all your material, is you never took it as, oh, poor me. You always took it as a learning experience. Would you call it $1 million?
Yeah.
This is my
$1 million of experience.
Sure.
And most of it was my fault anyway. So I finally learned to even admit that. For half my career, I thought it was everybody else's fault. And then I finally came to the conclusion it's probably my fault.
Sure.
I tell people when I quit criticizing my wife, she got better immediately. So I said I tried to fix her for 25 years. That didn't work. So the next 25, I'm a nice guy. I let it go.
That's
like
awesome.
The song, Frozen, let it go.
There you go.
Let it go.
Princesses are great because they need accessories, so we sell them a lot of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, you dropped out of the Army in '64, and, you left college, which is not the advice you gave your son, Daniel.
Yeah, he's got his undergraduate from Boston University, MBA, went to the Wharton Finance School for a while. Right.
Yeah,
now he's getting educated by YouTube, If you want a quick course on anything, you
right.
go there and get smarter in 15 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what is your take on today's college system? Would you hire somebody without college experience? And if they were a military veteran without college experience?
Oh, yeah. I would. I don't know if everybody will. Just depends. I think veterans can get a break on that. I think if you are an expert in something and they come out of the military and they really got experience and they can do something, whether it's IT or whether it's whatever it is, yeah. But I would tell kids today, try to get a degree because it's hard to get an interview sometimes if you can't show you have a degree because everything's online now. You have to apply online and they get sorted out and all that. But oh yeah, I hire a lot of people without degrees when I was at Disney, and they were great and did a great job. And of course, it was easy for me because I figured great people don't have a degree always.
Right.
Because by then I thought I was pretty hot stuff. So and I just know that you learn a lot through life. I mean, when I was 20, I didn't know much, but I was interested. I was curious. I listened to tapes. I read books on leadership and management. I observed management. I'm very organized, so that helped a lot. I had a good attitude and I was disciplined, and bosses like that. Good attitude, and I'm very organized. If I say I'm going to do something by Friday at 5 o'clock, it will be done, no matter what. And those two things are, they say discipline and empathy are the two best things you can have as a leader.
Sure.
And maybe as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline to do the right things and to do the hard things and have the hard discussions, and the empathy to make sure they know you love them and care for them and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of leaders are missing those, one or the other or both.
Yeah, exactly.
Empathy is hard to come by with some people. They're just too messed up from their own lives.
Sure.
I tell them their brains have been programmed wrong. half the stuff you think is not even true.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah, I remember you saying that in your book, because once you got out of Oklahoma, you were like,
hey,
different
black people
world.
are not a problem. Gay
Yeah.
people are not a problem. Jewish people are not a problem. Muslims are not a problem. It's usually we are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to change them. We need to change ourselves, and because it's not true. I've been to 44 countries. I've been all over the world. People are the same everywhere. They're sweet. They're wonderful. Nice. But the governments, the governments are screwed up. But
Yeah.
we can't judge people by the government policy. So I'm glad I learned that, because I knew nothing. I didn't even know where Japan was, or Russia, or New York, probably. And when you get exposed, I would just say again, the best thing you can do for your kids, exposure and experience, so that they see everybody the same. They don't see color. They don't see religion. They don't see sexual orientation. And I have grandkids that are like that today because that's the way they grew up in this family. They don't care what you do or what you are. They care who are you. Are you the kind of person that can be a friend and trust? And we're proud of that, because there's a lot of parents. I said all babies are the same until they're born, and then we screw them up. They're all perfect when they're born.
Yeah, they are.
Everywhere. I don't care where they live in the world, what religion, or what sexual, but we adults, we pollute their brains. And I think good leaders and parents have to think about, be careful what you say and do, because they're fragile.
Yep.
People are fragile. And so that's how I always try to remember that when I'm around people. Don't embarrass somebody. Don't talk down to somebody. Don't make somebody, don't be autocratic. Don't raise your voice.
Sure.
I hate it when I see parents screaming at their kids at Disney. I just want to go over and slap the mother. But I couldn't. Yeah, but because it does damage.
Sure.
Lasting damage. And you got to control our own emotions, not take them out on other people that have done nothing usually. You know, it's us, we are the problem. So, or we underestimate what we can achieve in the world too, because we are so screwed up from insecurities and the way we were raised and different stuff. We don't have to repeat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think mental illness, we talked about soldiers. I mean, the pressure of being out there in the war zone and coming back with anxiety and depression. And it's a big problem in the general public too today. I mean, huge. College kids, elderly people, young people, married people. I went through it myself. I had anxiety and depression when my wife almost died a few years ago, and I had to take care of her for almost 2 years. And I didn't even know what depression was. I thought, what? Depression? Why do people? That's an attitude. People need to get over it. Boy, did I learn a lesson. I went to see a psychiatrist and got the meds, and I still take them just because I never want to go back there. I mean, it's like, and it was a personal issue. Business things don't bother me. It's like when it's going to affect you. You can imagine with if one of your children was really sick and for years, and you had to take care of them, or your wife, and I learned a good lesson then that it changes you too to go through that. But I know the soldiers are suffering, a lot of them, and I did a program recently for Wounded Warrior Couples Program in Jacksonville, and it was great. The wives were there with their husbands, and we got into some very intimate discussions about it, because I could tell them I went through it, and they understood, and I understood what they're thinking about. It's probably the worst place you can be in the world is anxiety and depression. I mean, it's something you wouldn't want your best enemy to go to. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible thing. You always worry about, will it get better? And I think soldiers too, I went and got help, got a psychiatrist, and got treated for 1.5 years, and a lot of people won't go get treatment. And my psychiatrist told me men don't go. Men won't go, but women go. Women go for help. Men think they can resolve it. And they resolve it by drinking too much, or sleeping too much, or taking drugs, or alcohol, or abuse, or fighting, or divorce. And more and more, I think military people are starting to learn they've got to be treated. 80% of people can be cured with medication. And so don't be such a big, tough guy that you don't go, because it's for your family, and they want you around. We have 2 friends who committed suicide from the military, but they came back and couldn't adjust. And you wonder if we just got into somebody. You know, I used to see the psychiatrist every week and talk it through it, get through it. He'd tell me why that's happening, so I could start to reconcile how the brain works.
Sure.
You know, you don't. It's hard. You start to not even realize it's a chemical issue in your brain. And so I'm almost an expert now. Maybe I could be a doctor. But it's a problem, and I hope more and more of them will go seek help before they ruin their life, or their marriage, or their children's lives by that behavior. Because a lot of anxiety creates a lot of outrage and anger, and a lot of that can be helped. And getting them in the workplace too, as you were talking about earlier. I know Disney and a lot of companies are really working hard to get people in, and but really, you know, sometimes they've got to get okay with themselves before they can get into a job, and so they don't get the job and then come in late and not be coming in and have outbursts and emotional issues. I mean, so there's kind of 2 things you got to do.
Yeah.
You can probably get a job, no problem, and get started and start even a new career, but you got to get your health right too.
Yep.
And that sometimes can be the hardest. And
well, like you said, there's people out there that want to help them, but us
absolutely.
men, very stubborn.
Oh, we know everything.
We think we can do it all on our own.
As my wife says, the men are misbehaving again today. The men, every day in the news, it's the men.
Sure.
It's this macho, I can deal with this myself. As my wife said, it's like men don't ask for directions, thank God for GPS. And then even when we have GPS, we don't want to listen to the lady. We say, oh, no, I know a better way. Yeah, and then you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Lost.
So, men have a long way to go to get more comfortable with having issues that they need to help resolve. And it's probably why women will be running the whole world someday, because they have more sense. And, yeah, women take better care of themselves often, too. So, yeah, it's a struggle.
I love how you said in Career Magic, you said one of the most frequent questions you have is what's the one thing that you would attribute most to your success? And you said it was getting exposure and getting out and experiencing things.
No question. I went back for my 55th high school reunion last September, and I'm really glad I got away from there. I mean, because all the kids who stayed there, they're pretty narrow-minded. I don't have any problem people being conservative, but to the point where you think only white Baptists are good people and everybody else is a problem. And I just, once you're exposed and once you have experience, you just think differently. You can't meet. I was in Russia this summer, and the people are so nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they loved having us there, and just good, great.
Couldn't tell that by the news, though.
Huh? No, because the news is about the government. It's not about the people. And people in Iraq, or people in the Palestinians and the Israelis. That's all. It's all a political issue. That's not. I mean, if I was Palestinian, would I be trying to cause problems if I hadn't had a country in 75 years? Probably. You know? And if I was North Korean, would I try to get out of there? These are just sweet people that have been put in situations that, and by the way, a lot of them got economically a much worse life than we do, and they do fine.
Mm-hmm.
They love their families, they're with their children, and they go to Vietnam, and a motorbike goes by with a mom and 3 kids on the back of it. I mean, you're going like, what?
Yeah.
But they're happy. You know, they're happy because the family is very important there. And that's the problem here. We got to get the family structure tightened up because it's we kind of mess it up. Adults mess it up, and then we develop kids who are kind of messed up too because they've been through all of that, and makes them insecure and hurts their self-esteem. They don't believe in themselves because they've seen that happen. It changes who you are. So I said you can't change America maybe, but you can certainly change your family.
Sure. And
you can change your organization too, but you don't have to deal with Congress. We just treat people right at Disney. And we treat people right in your personal life and learn to let it go.
Yeah.
Whatever I said, forget about half of what your parents taught you, because half of it's not true, and your grandparents probably even more is not true, because it depends where you grow up and what circumstances, and you can imagine how it was right after the Civil War, how people were being treated.
Yeah.
That hadn't changed a whole lot in some places.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the problem usually, not somebody else. That's what I've learned now.
Yeah.
When I think is it me or is it them? It's usually us.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of great experiences with, 3 great organizations that I know of, Hilton, Marriott, and Disney. You've traveled all over the United States and the world, and so you can relate a lot to what has happened and what is happening within the world today.
I was in Washington when there were civil rights issues going on. Martial law in Washington. When I worked there, you couldn't go out during the day. Tanks rolling down the streets, a machine gun on the White House lawn, burning the cities that summer. In '68, Martin Luther King was assassinated. Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. Times are worse then.
And you were there.
Yeah.
When this was happening.
Times are worse now, or then, than they are now. People think, oh, that was so political and blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, it was really rough.
Yeah.
And it was bad, and it was, I think they said in the 60s and early 70s, there were over 1,000 bombings in the U.S. You probably don't even know it.
Mm-mm.
Bombings of banks and big companies and groups that were out there going for their cause. 1,000 bombings.
That's crazy.
So we've been through harder times, and we'll get through this. We got through the Depression, we got through World War I, got through World War II. Times have been bad. We got through Vietnam.
Sure.
And we'll get through this too. But when you're when you're young, you think, wow, this is horrible, terrible. Oh my God, times are bad. Yeah. Well, you should have been in the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like crazy.
I can only imagine.
Drugs and alcohol, and oh man, it was nuts.
Wow.
I was lucky I was married. It kept me off the streets. Priscilla wouldn't let me go out at night.
That's
my wife's got a great theory. My wife says, if you're not out after midnight and you're not involved in drugs, America's as safe as it can be.
Mm.
And you just think about it. Every issue you read in the paper is drug-related, or people at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's usually alcohol and a gun. So get home by midnight and don't get involved in drugs, and you'll have a pretty safe life.
Yes, sir. You actually mention your wife a lot in your books. You know, Priscilla, how amazing she's been to your road to success and the support that she's had. Can you talk about how that has helped you get to where you are today?
Well, you know, we all need somebody who will tell us the truth, and Priscilla's not got a problem with that. Her dad was a Navy admiral. She grew up in a Navy family, and he was the most ethical person I've ever known. I mean, honest, ethical, great guy. Great influence on her and her sister and her brother, and also on my son. You know, when you grow up in a very ethical, honest place where I asked my grandfather-in-law once when he decided he would die for his country, and he said, the day I swore an oath to the Constitution, I'm at 23 years old.
Wow.
How many kids today would you hear say, I'll die for my country? And he would, and did, and went to South Pacific for 3 years, and his ship was kamikazed, and people died in front of him, and
wow.
And so she has a lot of strength, and she, over the years, moving all the time, we moved 11 times, and as she said to me once, she said, you know, Lee, you go to work and you're a big deal. I have to make all new friends each time. And I'm at home alone, and you're working 6 days a week, and yeah. So she's been strong, and she's, when I'm not on the right path, she clarifies that for me. She's the one that told me, be careful what you say and do, Lee, way back. You're the boss out there. They're judging you every day. Be careful. Don't say no loose lips. And still today, you know, she's working on me now to learn to apologize more sincerely. I said, I apologize. She said, I know, but you didn't mean it. I said, well, because I'm usually right. But no, she's great, and she's great with our grandkids, and she FaceTimes with them once a week or twice, and they call her for advice, and they've written her letters that are heartwarming about the impact she's had on their lives. And
wow.
So, you know, that parents need kids and grandparents, different perspective, you know. And I've been giving my grandkids advice since they were born about to behave. I told my granddaughter, trust no man until I tell you it's okay, especially in college.
I like that.
They lie. They tell you they want to hold your hand, Margot. That's not what they want. And she, oh, Pappy, stop it. I said, I'm serious. And my grandson, too. We've talked about all the stuff deep down, and they're all doing great. And but the reality, if my grandfather would talk like that, I would have had a heart attack. I would have fainted. But today, the kids got to know what's going on, the reality. And the best place to learn is from your parents and grandparents, because they know you love them, they know you care. And so it's always good, like, to have Priscilla, because she cares. That's why she tells me. She doesn't make this stuff up when I do something stupid or say something inappropriate. Or so you need that in your life. And our early marriage, I was very defensive. I didn't like feedback, because I don't like people telling me what to do, because I'm really insecure and I think I know everything. I'm a control freak. If I don't do it, it won't get done right. And I've gotten over that pretty much. Eventually, it took time, because I got more security and more self-confidence as I had more success in my life. Those early days, you can imagine, there I was, no college degree, grew up in this kind of dysfunctional family in an area where everybody thought everybody was a problem, and so it took time to get over that. It's kind of a healing process.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's probably why I ended up with depression. This doctor told me, he said, a lot of that came roaring back from your insecurities in your early childhood. Now you're worried your wife's going to die and you're going to be abandoned. You never know what's sitting up here waiting to come back and bite you.
Yeah.
And you don't even know it's up there.
Yep.
Because who knows what your mother said to you, or you were little, or something happened, you don't remember it, but it's there. And it came back to me 65 years later.
Wow.
So I really question my thoughts these days. Are they real? I wonder why I think that. Because you need to think about what you're thinking about in this. I would say half of what people think about today is not even true. Just look at the internet and all this political stuff and lies, and you know, half of what you know is not true, and half of the internet's not true. So you got to seek out the truth, because you'll make bad decisions.
Yep.
If you don't. And I think we got to help people understand, what you're doing with the soldiers is understand we can help them. The number one reason people go homeless in the world, number one reason, the last person in their life gives up on them. No hope. Mom says, don't ever come back here again. Or brother says, that's it, we've had it with you, don't show up here again. When the last person gives up on you, you have no hope. That's the number one rate people go homeless.
Wow.
I'm sure you can relate to that with soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You got to have somebody that's there for you. And even when they're having emotional problems and when they're striking out and being angry, and you got to stick with them, just like you would for your children.
Sure.
You would never abandon your kids because they were having a bad day. And I'm sure they occasionally have a bad day when they scream, don't do what you tell them, and they're not even 13 yet. Wait till then. That day comes, then you're going to really be.
Good point.
But we stick by them, and we got to stick by people like these soldiers too. I mean, they weren't like that before, and we caused that. And the brain is sensitive. It's fragile, very fragile. I learned that myself. Very fragile. You think you're hard and tough and good. I thought I was the toughest guy in the world. Nothing bothers me. Nothing. Give me a shower and a good night's sleep, and I'm back at 'em. Boy, boom. When that hit me, I couldn't believe it. I cared about nothing. Nothing. I didn't care about seeing my grandkids. I cared about nothing. All I did was sit and worry, and I couldn't sleep, and you get insomnia, and then it goes from bad to worse. Then you get on medication, then I'd have a little drink with it, and that would feel good for about the evening, but until the morning when you're I got hooked on Xanax. I had to get off of that. I had to work myself off. I bought a little drug scale, and I would take an Embry board and make it a little smaller every day till over about 4 weeks till I could get off of it. Boy, I mean, it was. Now I see how people get on drugs because it feels so good to take that pill every 6 hours.
Yeah. Was this all while you were at Disney or after?
No, after I'd retired. It actually started, my wife had her illness in '08 when I had been retired 2 years, and it was the day Creating Magic, my first book, came out. I had to cancel all my trips to promote that book. I did them all on the radio, and people would call in because I couldn't leave her. I mean, she was in bad shape. She was in the hospital 64 days.
Wow.
Bill was $700,000 by the time. Saturday night, our life was perfect. Sunday morning, from then on, it was like a disaster. She's fine now. But again, we had a lot of great doctors, a lot of people who cared. She got better and I got worse. That's what I said to people. Doctors and nurses say, what should we do with the patient? I said, well, take care of the patient, but also pay attention to the spouse sitting in that room or the children that are really, you don't know what's going on with them. Mm-hmm. Because that's a lot of mental illness comes from that kind of stress. And uncertainty. When we have uncertainty, you don't know if it's going to work out. You don't know if she's going to be okay. Yeah. Then the alarms go off and she needs a blood transfusion. Then the wound vac and colostomy bag and and stuff you don't even know about. Yeah. Now it's in your life. And that's what happens with a lot of soldiers too. There's stuff in their life and their wives don't understand because they try to understand, but unless you're in it, you can't understand it. Mm-hmm. Unless you've been there, don't tell me how depression feels. Let me tell you, that's a dark neighborhood you never want to go to. Yeah. And I can spot a depressed person a mile away these days, being withdrawn, not being available, don't want to talk to you, don't get back to you. I mean, it's pretty clear. I'd say to everybody, watch your kids, teenage girls, college students, your parents. One of your parents gets sick, the other one can really suffer. And of course, we all put on a good face trying to hide it. So you got to really pay attention to make sure you know. Parents say, I didn't know my daughter was on drugs. Well, I say, well, you're not paying much attention to your kids then. Or I didn't know my son was building a bomb in his room. I say, well, go in their room. Mm-hmm. If you have teenagers, go in there every 20 minutes and see what they're up to. And don't believe anything they tell you, but from 13 to 17. They're the best liars in the world, and the 8 and 9-year-olds are making progress. And I lied to my mother every day, so to get what I wanted. Sure. And people say, "Oh, not my children." Oh yeah, your children. They got you right where they want you. So make sure you know what's going on, and then help them.
Great point.
Because in America, when I say, "How you doing?" what do you say? Great. Yep. It's the biggest lie in America. We're not great. Divorce and people, and 40 million people taking drugs for anxiety and depression and opioids and high school dropouts, and everything's not great.
No.
So don't ever believe that when somebody tells you that. I talked to a psychologist once, and she said, "How you doing, Lee?" I said, "Great." She said, "No, I mean really." You really. Every other country in the world, you ask somebody how they are, yeah, they'll tell you this is sucks and our government allowed, right? Yeah. Americans, we just say great. So being more focused on people, you can tell that they need your help, and we can help. We can step in and help them with whatever their issues are, just like we do our children. And your kids are going to have issues in their life, and you're going to be there, and you're committed to them. Committed. Yep. You'll go all the way.
Yep.
And that's what we need to do more of, is go all the way. Just don't believe the surface of life. Surfaces. America looks great, but America's not great. America's got a lot of problems. Somebody said we need to go back to the 50s. I said, oh, really? You weren't there. Right? You weren't there. Black and white toilets. When I went to the Army, I looked out the window at the bus station. White, colored. Water fountains, white, colored. I tell my grandkids that today, they think I'm joking. But it was those times, and I don't think we want to go back there. So people say America's great. I said, yeah, for some people. If you're white, it's great. Don't say America's great. It's just white for certain people.
Yep.
If you're really poor, it's not great. If you don't have health insurance, it's not great. If you don't have a good education, it's not great. If you don't speak the language very well, it's not great. So, where is it great? Yeah, well.
Do you think understanding human nature is kind of like a lost element now with social media?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I get angry myself about some of these, what people say about what's going on in America, and what they say about Muslims, what they say about African Americans, what they say about gay people. It upsets me. I mean, we even have relatives we can hardly talk to now because they're so bigoted, and they think they're absolutely right. So, you know, like if you don't have respect for people generally, you're not right. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
And you may not like a person, but you should not like the whole race. You know, yeah, there's a lot of individuals I don't care for, but I can't say all of that group is, no. It's judge people as individuals. They disappoint you, and that's a person, but you don't have to include the whole race, or all women, or all millennials. What you get blamed for everything now.
Yeah, exactly.
Millennials aren't a problem, we're the problem. Millennials are smarter than we are, by far. But they want responsibility, and they're not going to put up with nonsense and authority. They need authority. So everybody says millennials. I said, no, some millennials are a problem. Well, some people my age are a problem. And, well, some gay people. Yeah, some are, but not, you know, we got to get over this. I mean, this is like, first it's an absurd statement.
Yeah. So
Millennials. True. It's like in my day, oh, you know, those people, they were a problem. And those people from New York are a problem. People from California are a problem. People from Alabama are a problem. No, some are.
Yep.
You know? And I just wish people could get through their head that the only reason they think that's because they've never been anywhere. They don't know anybody.
I mean, we have our own problems. And what do you think they're saying about us?
Well, I always tell people I was born in Oklahoma in the 40s and 50s. I raised. Now I have an audience, a lot of blacks and other people from other countries. And I'll say, do you think I ever heard anything inappropriate about any of you when I was growing up in Oklahoma in the 40s and 50s? And they go, yeah. I said, yeah. I heard black people are a problem. I've learned that's not true. I've heard Muslims are a problem. That's not true. I was told people in wheelchairs, don't bother them, don't talk to them. People, it kind of takes them back.
Sure.
Gay people, they're not a problem. Well, I have a brother-in-law that's gay. He's a nice guy. I have a lot of people who are straight that are a problem. You know? And so I think people need to hear that more. Because, and then if you watch you only get your news from one source, so it's all slanted that way. I watch all the channels because I want to kind of see where that's going. And I read the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And I want to balance. I want to, not manipulation.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't have a clue what's going on in the world. They don't have a clue. And they believe everything they hear on the TV. And, oh gosh.
Yeah.
I go, what?
They just sit behind the box and let
When I
that
see a
tell them.
post on Facebook, I can almost tell you before I go to look at who they are. I can tell you how old they are, where they live, what their level of education is, and it's all making me. I'm 99% right. Boom. 66, living in this place, all conservative, negative, hate black people, hate gay people. And I just do it to see if I can get it. I usually get it.
That's amazing. I mean, because you've obviously dealt with your fair share of people throughout your life, and you're dealing with 40,000 cast members. We can shift here a little bit because I want to talk about your time management stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Because how did you even take that on a daily basis, dealing with 40,000 cast members and dealing with that many people, and still you had somewhat of an open door policy to any of those cast members to come and talk to you about any issue that they had?
It was pretty much like this. I'm real organized. I took that time management class back in the 80s and got a system in place, and I don't have a need to be involved in everything, so I had a lot of people around me who were the experts, so I didn't bother them. It gave me a lot of free time. Engineering, food and beverage, retail, security, transportation. I didn't get involved in that stuff. They ran it. And that's when you hire great people, you don't have to be involved in it. And if you let them do their job. So it left me a lot of time, so I basically focused on making sure we were hiring the right people, all those systems, that we were training people, testing them, and enforcing the training at Disney. And my focus was pretty much on the culture of making sure we're creating a place where everybody matters and they know they matter, where they wake up in the morning excited to come to work versus hate their boss and wish they didn't, or come in only for the paycheck. And that's where I spent most of my time. And I was available because I found out most people don't take you up on it. And I always said to them, I hope you'll see your manager first. But if they wouldn't, I would see them, help resolve it, call somebody, get involved. And I had a lot of support at Disney, HR, compliance. And when you got great people around you, you got a lot of free time. If you got idiots around you, you don't have so much free time because they're creating problems for you all day long that you got to get involved in. Like if your kids behave because you've taught them right, you don't have to go get them out of jail. You don't have to go get them in rehab. You don't have to get them a doctor. You don't have to get a lawyer. You don't have to go up to the school because they're misbehaving and not doing well in their grades. Look at all the time you have if you raise the kids right.
Exactly.
Can you imagine? You probably know parents that are just up to their ears in their kids' problems, and the kids can't go to college, and they don't learn, and they're still living at home, and so you own it.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
If your kids are a problem, you are the problem.
Yep. So what was the premise behind using cast members instead of employees? Was that somewhat of a culture thing, or?
Oh yeah, it started originally because Disney was in the movie business, and so everybody was called a cast member. And so Walt just brought that because he wanted people to realize they're in a show. Just like if somebody's working at a bank, they're in a show. They're supposed to be professional, act right, look right. Here's what you can say, here's what you can't say, the script, here's what you can do, not do. These are the props. Place looks great, you know. And so everybody in the world, if they would just think about they're putting on a show, and are they putting on a good show or a bad show? Is it going to run on Broadway for 20 years, or is it going to close after a week? And that's the way you look, the way you present yourself, professionalism, being clear about what your authority is, doing what you say you're going to do, being organized. Those are all part of the show. And so Disney called everybody cast members so we don't forget we're in the show. We're not just somebody hanging out over there cleaning the bathroom. Your role in the show is to clean the bathroom. The manager's job in the show is to be out and about with your people, helping them. That's your role. And when you go on stage, you're nice. You don't go out there and yell at everybody. That's not the plot.
Sure.
And so I think it's a great concept for any business. Yeah.
Definitely.
Just start thinking that way. Is the parking lot clean? Is everything right? The bushes are alive? Bathrooms are clean? People treat you? Security stands up when you walk in the building, says good evening, good afternoon. You know, write your story and then produce it. Write your play, write your performance, and then produce it. And that's what we do at Disney. The chances you're running into a rude cast member at Disney is almost zero because it's not a part of the show. And if you do that, you won't be in the show anymore.
Sure.
It's like if you can't kick and dance on Broadway, you're out of the show. Sing, you got to dance, and when you can't, you have to go do something else. That's why you get auditions, and that's why we do audition. We are very careful who we hire.
Can you talk about that a little bit and how you guys went through that process?
We're looking for passion, we're looking for attitude, and skill. The skill can be trained. Most important to us is attitude and passion because that's just a training issue, man. It's not. If you got somebody that's got passion and attitude, great attitude, you got a very high potential person. And we screen them well. They have to go on the internet and answer 136 questions before we'll interview them. We want to know who you are. Do you have high energy? Do you have stamina? Do you have are you disciplined? Are you going to be to work on time? Can you take it out there all day long selling an ice cream cone for 90-degree heat and be nice and create magic? And we learn a lot. And then they get to go to the casting center. And back when I was there, it's changed a bit now, but you had to watch a film about Disney expectations. We clarify those expectations in that film. At the end of the film, 20-25% of people decide to leave because they don't like it. No visible tattoos, no visible piercings. You got to have your hair cut at a certain length, be into work on time, personal appearance, guidelines on how you look. A lot of people say, I don't like this. One guy said, it's like the Army. I said, yeah, that's why it works so well. We're disciplined.
Yeah.
In the Army, there's the Army way. In Disney, there's the Disney way. If you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Sure.
So that's how we get clarity. 25% going right away that it would have been a problem if we'd let them in easily. And clarity. That's what I'd say to everybody in the world. Are you being clear enough with your wife, with your children, with your employees? Are you really clear? Have you raised your expectations for yourself and for them? Have you asked for more? Do you have high expectations for your children?
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Do you have high expectations at work? People say, I say, well, if you want to know what it feels like, think about your kids. You'll do anything to make sure they're successful and honest, high integrity, and so good parents produce good kids. And I said, if I could interview the parents, I'd already know whether I'd hire you or not. Right?
Good point.
So that's how we do it. We're very careful. We hire them right, we train them right, and we treat them right. And that's kind of a simple formula for any business.
That's awesome. And when I'm reading your books, it's always you're raising your standards constantly, through, and that's just the Disney way, right? You're constantly raising standards.
They're never happy there.
Right.
It's never clean enough. It's never friendly enough. It's never enough profit. There's never more on every level. Disney people don't even know how stressed they are. Yeah, they go at a whole different pace. I mean, the pace is like probably 5 times what it is in most companies.
Wow.
I mean, and they get used to it.
Yeah.
You get used to everything. In Disney, you send somebody an email or a text, you expect them to answer you in 3.5 minutes. In most companies, 3.5 days. And if they ever answer you.
Yep.
And so clarity around performance expectations, we're a big deal. Guests love us. It's the biggest trip of their life. They've saved their own personal money to come there. We can't disappoint them. I mean, it's not like we give you something to take home. Magic. It's in we take home memories.
Yep.
And we charge a lot for those memories. You can
Yeah.
buy a car. But people want it. Even soldiers, first during all this going on, often the soldiers and their families come to Disney before they're deployed that last trip. And then first place they come when he gets home is back to Disney because it's this special place where they felt fun together and away from reality. And it's healing.
Yeah.
To see your kids having fun. I mean, what's more important? What's more fun for you than seeing your kids happy? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, there's not much
I tell
more.
people, make the kids happy, parents are happy. They come back, they spend the money.
Yep.
So it's a good way to think about life. If I ran any business, I don't care what it was, I'd have a children's area, the bank, TV, movies, any place. Because I want those kids to scream and yell to come back. I want to go to the bank with you.
Yeah.
So I don't think people think broad enough about what they can do for everybody in the family or in the constituents that they have. So there's more can be done. That's why the customer rules. You said you liked that book?
I love that book.
There's a lot of ideas in there about, are you doing these things? They don't cost anything, but have you thought about them?
Yeah.
Anybody can do them, but a lot of people don't well, some people don't read and they don't know what's going on, and they don't go out and they're not curious about new ideas. And if you're not pretty curious and doing new things today, you'll get killed by the competition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well,
the person who implements that is going to be a lot further along in their business than the person who doesn't.
Yep.
If they're right side by side.
Exactly. I'm glad you actually brought that book up, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about customer service. Because a lot of companies preach customer service. They say they do it. They have good
customers. Our most important product.
Right?
Really?
But you really exceed expectations at Disney. You know, and I like how you give the power to your employees to make decisions, to make things right.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I mean, why not? They do a better job in management anyway. They're right there. Do you want to wait till somebody finds a manager or they get back to you 3 weeks later? No. Solve it now.
Yep.
And when they've got the authority financially and hopefully with good judgment, because we hired good people and trained them well, they can take care of your problem. 10% of the time they can't, they get the manager. But 90% of your problems at Disney, the person dealing with you will take care of it.
That's awesome. I love that.
It's different than most places. They don't have to go get approval and fill out forms and just take care of the guests, because we would like to have them come back and give us all of that money again.
Right?
Yeah. Do you want to annoy them so they don't come back? No, we don't win arguments with our guests. We don't have arguments with our guests. The guest is not always right, but they're always the guest. And
Exactly.
they always have a credit card. We like all currency.
Yep.
Rubles, pesos, euros.
And you say that a lot too. Guest, not customer,
No,
not client.
yeah.
It's a guest.
When you think of people as guests in your home, it's different than somebody stopping by.
Yeah.
Because why? Because for guests, you prepare, you get ready, you clean the house, you cook your best food. If they like a red wine, you go get a good one. And guests are different than just people, customers.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of I know WestJet in Canada now, their passengers are guests. And it changes slowly, it changes mindset. That we're here to serve these people, not to just take their money. And guest. Be my guest.
That's awesome. And last question that I have for you here today is what's one thing that you can think of off the top of your head that you'd like our viewers to know about Lee Cockerell that they might not know already?
Well, I don't know. If they read my books, they'll know more about me than most people want people to know about them. But I think today I would say people ask me, Lee, when I was early on in my career, I just wanted to be famous and I wanted to be successful and I wanted to make a lot of money and get stock options and credit cars, and I was interested in the stuff. And I made a big switch over, and even more since I retired, that my goal in life is to be, somebody said, what do you want to be remembered for? I said, I want to be remembered as a teacher, not as a big bad boss. That people got better when they associated with me, or they worked with me, or they read my books, or they listened to my podcast, that they go away saying, wow, that changed me. I got some new ideas, some things I can do, because we need more teachers in the world and less autocratic people trying to intimidate you and push you around. And because when you teach people, they're committed to you. I mean, just think of people in your life, that your parents, your grandparents, your pastor, that taught you the right way to do things. And people say, hey, I learned that from Lee. Or I was with a lady yesterday morning and said, you changed my life when I read your books. She said, I'm meeting you this morning. I felt like I knew you. I know your grandkids. I know your how's Priscilla. And I said, yeah, teach. Teachers are the oldest profession, not the other one.
Yes.
And with good teachers, your life will be better. If you don't teach, people want to learn. People are open to learning. We just don't put them in that situation. And we should consider I always consider about every moment a teaching opportunity. When I was out and about in the operations at Disney, step over and show somebody how to do it right, or say, thank you so much for doing that. That's the way we ought to do it. That's teaching. Support, role modeling. Every day when you go home, you're teaching your kids.
Yep.
When you go over and kiss your wife and tell her you love her, and kids see that. Instead of some people go over and whack their wife upside the head. And the kids are seeing that and grow up insecure. So think about it all day long. Are you teaching? Or even if strangers, you're in a grocery store, how you behave, how you speak to people, how you help people. Help some lady out to the car with her groceries because she's, You can either be good or you can be bad. You have a choice every day. When you get home tonight, it'll affect the culture. When you see your kids later, you'll come in and make a culture better, or you'll make it worse. One of two things. It's your choice. When you get to work, you go in, you make it better, you make it worse. That's a choice. It's not anybody else's problem. It's your problem.
Exactly.
And I think about that a lot. I used to come in and turn the TV on. Priscilla would start talking to me, and then she'd say, "Are you listening?" And I'd say, I tell people, that's not a question. And now I come in and I say, "Darling, I love you," and then I turn the TV on. It takes 5 seconds. Do things in the right order when you get to work. Go see your people. I used to say, touch your people before you touch the work, and HR said, quit saying touch your people. So I don't say that anymore, since all these problems we're having with sexual issues at work. So I say, go see your people, thank them, shake their hand, see how the soccer game was last night, ask how their mother's doing in the hospital, anything you can do for them. Then go turn your computer on, because your computer doesn't need any emotion. It doesn't even care if you turn it on. People
Such
do.
a great
Turn
point.
your people on, then turn the computer on.
Yes, sir.
And at home tonight, when you go home, or wherever you tell your lie, and then you hug your kids and tell them how much you love them, and they run off, and they are happy to see you, like your dog. Will come running to you each time you come in. That's why people like dogs, because they're always happy to see you, only if you've been gone only 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They think you're back. Oh my God, it's all over again. And we should be like that as humans. People should be happy to see us, not be playing the theme song from Jaws on the way to work. Everybody runs away when they see your car pull up.
Yeah.
You know people like that? Yeah. Look on the news every day now.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad
Sure.
behavior.
So what's next for Lee Cockerell?
Oh, I'm working a lot in education now with schools, colleges, universities. Getting these books are getting in as textbooks, and the professor's guide I gave you. I'm working with. I'm really interested in that a lot, and I'm working on a kind of a national program with a guy who's going to promote my workshops in different cities. And we're getting sponsors, and then you can buy a ticket and come. We'll do a 3-hour workshop for you on leadership management and customer service. And I like to speak to high school students because they need to hear this. A lot of them have been kind of not handled properly by their parents, and they underestimate what they can achieve. I worry about that.
Yes, sir.
I spoke to one group one day, an 11th grader, a young lady came up to me afterwards, and she said, "Thanks for coming today, Mr. Cockerell. I didn't know until today that I could be a leader." She had been missed by her parents. She didn't believe in herself. I told her, "Hey, let me tell you something, darling. Don't stay up here and get pregnant by the first guy that says I love you and work at McDonald's the rest of your life. You can do it. Go out, go to Atlanta, New York, LA, be the best little waitress they ever had in the world, and next thing you know, you'll be the manager, and then 5 years later, you might own the place. Don't stay here and be in an environment and a culture that created this insecurity in you." And most of our problems are us, and we create. And it's sad that a young lady, she was sharp, but she didn't believe in herself, and that's not unusual for a young woman. Men don't realize they just do dumb things. Women get even. Women get even. But so I'd say that is we got to help people understand who they can be. I mean, can you imagine if I'd have stayed in Ardmore? I had all these people as I worked through my career. My wife, a couple of mentors that showed me the right way and told me when I was being an idiot and pushed me hard and said, "Lee, you can do it right." And my grandmother, who was the nicest person I ever knew in my life. And a lot of grandparents are having a huge influence on their kids today, on their children's children. And a lot of grandparents are raising kids today because the parents are on drugs and alcohol and
That's
opioids.
scary.
It's really tough. I mean, it's pretty high numbers that that's happening with. So don't underestimate what you can do. Go out and do it. And if you can't do it by yourself, get expert help to help you. It's never too late to get better. That's what I tell people in every part of your life. Never too late to get healthier. Never too late to improve a relationship. It's just never too late. You can always, if you learn a new way, you'll be different. And if you are different, you're going to get better results. If you just stick to doing it the way you're doing, that's what you're going to get. You're going to create another crop of bigoted, racist kids, which we don't need anymore. We got enough to deal with right now.
Exactly.
So those are the kinds of things to think about. The technical part of life is easy. Being an accountant, doing what you have to do is easy. It's being able to do it in the right way. And
the intangibles.
it's huge. Getting your kids to make their bed and also to feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And understanding that they progressively have responsibility and they have to do it. And so when they grow up and mom's not there, they don't get upset and quit because the boss told them to come back and straighten out their desk.
Yeah.
They've already learned that way back. That's not personal. It's discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of the show.
Awesome.
Yeah, good.
Well, I know that everybody can find you through your books, but what's some of the other avenues where people can find you and follow you?
Yeah. Best way is go to my website, leecockerel.com. Everything's there. My podcast is every Tuesday morning, 15 minutes on leadership management and customer service. It's free. We get huge numbers of people downloading it. I think we're hitting about 50,000 a month now from all over the world.
That's awesome.
I love the internet.
Amazing.
And I hear from people all the time. I did 2 podcasts, January, I think 16, somewhere in January 2016. I did one in January and one in March about my anxiety and depression, what I was going through, and then how I dealt with it. I had a whole strategy on seeing a psychologist, psychiatrist, acupuncture, working out every day, going to strength training, not watching TV anymore, just music and calming down. I got sugar out of my diet, caffeine out of my diet. I did everything to fight it, because if you don't fight it, it gets worse. And so I put that lesson in there, and I heard from people all over the world that were going through this, and were thankful of hearing, wow, you just can't sit around and hope it gets better. And it won't, like anything in your life. Hoping and wishing is an interesting concept, but it doesn't work too well.
Yes, sir.
I hope my kids turn out okay. No. I wish they would. No. You got to do it. You got to be involved. So that was the podcasts are really powerful. Like yours. I mean, it's powerful. Take a few minutes and learn a new lesson.
Yes, sir.
I say, ooh, I didn't know that. Why didn't I know that? Because we don't know. I saw a quote the other day that said that the 2 big thieves in our lives are regrets for things we didn't do in the past, and fear of the future, of taking a risk. So we sit there in the middle and we're 70 and we think, what did I do? What happened? You got to take a risk.
Yes, sir.
If you're not happy, get to a place where you're happy. Don't sit and be unhappy for 40 years. It'll change your personality. It's not good for your health. And a lot of people just sit there and can't get out of this. Don't get stuck. I guess that's what I tell people. Don't get stuck. When you get stuck in the mud, get out, push that out of the way. And, don't get stuck. And the best way you do that is don't underestimate what you can achieve over time. And it's not a lost cause just because your brain tells you it is. Your brain lies to you, by the way. Brain's a big liar. Thanks for coming down.
Yes, sir, Lee. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
For those of you who are watching for the very first time, or you are a continuous watcher, we're going to be giving away copies of Lee's books here. We do have copies of each one. Very fantastic books. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment below, let us know why we should send you the book, and we will get it off in the mail to you. Appreciate you watching this episode of VetBiz TV, and we'll see you in the next episode. This episode of VetBiz TV is brought to you by the Star Group, Insurance and Risk Solutions, serving and protecting veteran-owned businesses. The Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is your success. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of VetBiz TV. We really do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. We'd love to hear your feedback. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.vetbiz.tv. Just hit the subscribe button. You'll be informed of all of our newest episodes and content coming out. Again, I want to thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
you